boys? It's me, KP. Welcome to another video. Shirt's feeling a little tight, man. That means the bulk is going well. Okay, so you gotta focus on this one thing before you start a lean gaining phase or a bulking phase. This is something that I've focused on in the past few years that's helped me tremendously. A lot of guys that I coach one-on-one as well. You know, I built out this method called the UMP method, Unique Male Performance Method, and I apply the same sort of approach. There's many different things that you can actually think about before going into a gaining phase. But if you don't kind of focus on these three main essentials I'm gonna tell you about, the bulk could just slow you down. Like at the end of the day, you're probably gonna be like, fuck, you're gonna be a lot fatter and not actually put on lean muscle mass. So number one thing I want you to focus on is before you start your bulk, get lean first. So your body's gonna be a lot more receptive to putting on lean muscle mass. Now that doesn't mean that you have to get like stage shredded to the point where you're like low, like 6% body fat. I do think that generally, like what I will do for myself or people that I work with, I will kind of get them to like maybe like a 9 to 12% body fat range first, and then feeling a little bit more comfortable about themselves. And then we go into a surplus. Then we start bulking. But you might be asking, okay, so what is lean? I mean, again, 9 to 12% body fat, you're gonna start to see maybe some definition in abs, depending on where you store most of your fat. But you know, if you're someone that's like 25% body fat right now and you need to get, you know, if you get down to 17, 15, that's great, man. But at the end of the day, as you get leaner, it will just, your body's gonna be craving nutrients and it's gonna want to put on muscle mass. When there's more nutrients, you're eating more carbohydrates, more protein after a kind of like a shred, then that's when you can kind of move into a bulk and now your body's like, okay, let's put on some mass. And just, I want to say as well, getting leaner, just more than likely, you're probably going to be pretty pumped up about it as well. Like if you do drip down quite a bit and you're like, oh yeah, man, like I'm pretty light. You might not look too big in a shirt, but when you rip the shirt off or you're training, you're wearing a tank top or you're wearing a t-shirt, you can see the definition in your arms and stuff, then probably you're going to be like, oh, like I can slowly go into this surplus. I don't need to like heavy bulk or anything because you look pretty good. That's what I find with myself, at least. Like when I get leaner, yeah, I go down in weight. I mean, I'm 200 now, but I'll go down in weight and then I'm not as heavy, but I still look like pretty big. The last thing I want to say as well, just with this whole getting lean first is, you know, focus on keeping the protein intake really high. You probably heard this thing, keeping 1 gram of protein per body pound. That's going to really help you out in the long run, just to maintain the muscle mass that you have. I think Jeremy Either talked about this on YouTube as well. It's like a formula, Greg Nuckols, I think that's his name. You take the formula, you take your body fat percentage, you divide it by 20, and that's pretty much gonna be your goal of weight loss per week. For me, I'm like 13% body fat right now, so that's 0.65% per week, which is around 1 pounds per week that I can essentially lose, and try to maintain as much muscle mass as I have and get rid of the fat mass. All right, guys, so the second thing I'm gonna say is a gaining phase is gonna take a lot longer, or should take a lot longer than a cutting phase. The proportion of fat loss during weight loss is around like 60-80%, and the proportion of like a lean muscle gain is around like 20 to 30%. So if you're expecting your body to essentially gain as much muscle as fast as you lose weight or fat loss in a cutting phase, at the end of the day, you're probably just going to put on too much fat mass. And, you know, when guys say, no, man, just accept the bulk, like you're going to get a little heavy, you're going to put on, like that's normal, but getting to the point where you're just like, you're starting to put on too much fat mass, you can see it in your face, and then you look like the guy that doesn't even work out. So a general rule of thumb that I like to stick to is keeping a gaining phase around 4 times longer than my cutting phase. So if you're cutting for 12 weeks, then that gaining phase should be 4 times that, which is quick maths. 48 weeks, I didn't pause the video too, I just thought about it in my head. So just in general, guys, too, as well, you can stick to like a 0.2 to 0.5% of total gain per week. So beginner and leaner individuals, you guys can stick to like a little bit more, 0.5%, and maybe some guys a little bit top heavy or advanced individuals like me, I've been working out for 9 years, I'll stick around that 0.2% of gain per week. Okay, just last note on the top of my head too with the second point is you could focus on more of like a carb cycle as well. I would recommend this on people who are a little bit more advanced in the gym. Maybe I would say maybe like 4 years plus, just because once you start to see how your body reacts to carbohydrates and just in general, how your body reacts. You can start carb cycling, which means maybe on rest days, you're gonna have a lower carb, and then on training days, you're gonna have higher carbs. Or if you're trying to grow, let's say your chest, I'm gonna push more carbohydrates on my chest day, my push day, and then lower the carbohydrates maybe on my back day or my leg day. Okay, third point, and this is my last point, when it comes down to before you start your bulk, is focus on training, but just don't overcomplicate it. Train no less than 3 times a week. I think that's gonna really help you out. I mean, you gotta be at least training a little bit more than like once or twice a week. Stick to that rule of thumb. Train each muscle no less than 1 to 3 times a week as well. Execute like 10 to 20 working sets per muscle group per week as well. I've talked a lot about this on my short form media, guys, where I talked about how beginner, you could stick to more like 10 sets per muscle group per week. Advanced individuals bump it up to 20. So in a growth phase, in a gaining phase, in a bulking phase, training, I would say, is, I don't want to put any numbers to it or some sort of like pillar or hierarchy to it, but training is really important. So if you're not pushing yourself enough, and you're not trying to get the body to adapt to the stress that you're putting on it, then essentially you're not going to put on any muscle. I mean, nutrition is still very important. I would say have 1 to 2 meals a week where it's a little bit fun, like cheat meal style, but keep everything relatively pretty clean, whole foods, and then focus on your training. Like make sure that you are getting stronger every single week or every few weeks, depending on the lift, depending on your experience level. But at the end of the day, man, training is really important in a growth phase. In a dieting phase, mostly people think about how much less food they have to eat, and that's why dieting in a cutting phase, your main focus is nutrition. So hopefully that helps you guys out, bring some kind of areas when we talk about bulking and gaining. So hopefully that helped you guys out. I mean, these videos I've been uploading a little bit more consistently, which is sick. So if you guys like this style video, like it, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys later.